So let's fly over the ehlanzeni TVET College campuses located in Mpumalanga. But before we do the flyover, let's set the scene. And the first thing I notice is that the campuses are located on a kind of north-south axis. And that's because they're following the northern Drakensberg, and they're located below the Drakensberg, kind of in the Lowveld, with the Kruger National Park spilling off to your east or to your right. And that's where Mozambique is. You can see the old Delagoa Bay or current Maputo there. And then to your left or to the west, we have the Limpopo province. I always see the Great Owl there, with these campuses located below the bottom ear of the owl. And below the TVET College campuses is Eswatini, the old Swaziland. So this place we're visiting has got enormous historical value and importance. And as we start the flight through, the first thing I kind of notice is you'll see there's almost like a natural pathway running on your top right. And I kind of imagine our Bantu peoples slowly but surely moving down from Tanzania and Eastern Africa and just being blown away by the beauty and the abundance in this area. But unfortunately, what you'll notice is where the campuses are actually located, you'll see there's been enormous erosion. And that's because these places became homelands where our black people were forced to stay in close and tight conditions, often in impoverished circumstances, which has led to a stripping of the land there. So now we're going to start off by flying into the Barberton campus. Now, it's famous for being the place where gold was first discovered, which is ridiculous because people have been mining gold here for thousands of years. But it is the place where a white guy discovered gold, and this led to a massive mining rush in the area. And there's still mining in the area, although it's very small scale because the quality of the ore was fairly low. Now, check out the racial, spatial landscape of Barberton. Mjindini is one of the townships in this area, and historically Barberton was known as a white town. At night only white people were allowed in the town, all black people had to leave. Now this campus historically was a satellite campus for the Nelspruit Technical College, and when it was handed over it was in terrible condition. It's subsequently been upgraded and improved. And at this campus, you can do electrical engineering, you can do financial management, you can do public management, and you can do generic management. And there's also evidence of the guys over here trying to be quite strongly innovative. So, for example, they've been working with a small enterprise development agency called CEDA, and they're manufacturing solar panels and solar geysers for the area. And it's these kinds of projects where the students get hands-on skills to do something that's worthwhile that I think should really be supported and celebrated. So let's pull out of Barberton, and I want to do it over the Makonjwa Mountains, because this whole area is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, because it has our Earth's oldest, best preserved examples of the first rock formations, the first continents that were formed 3.6 billion years ago, 3,600 million years ago. Now to imagine at that point, the sun was still weak, it was an early sun, the moon was a lot closer to the earth than it is now. This whole area was being bombarded by meteorites, so there's strong evidence of massive explosions over here. And what happened was the early geological formations got preserved. So that whole area is a place where you can find the best examples of the Earth in its infancy. And not only the Earth's infancy, we also have evidence in this area of humankind's infancy. So you've got the Sudwala caves around here, which have strong and well-preserved evidence of how we used to live in the Middle Stone Age, long before our Bantu people moved through and our Boer people moved up. So now we're flying into Mbombela, the old Nelspruit, the capital of Mpumalanga. And the first thing I want you to check out is those railway lines, because that's key to how Mbombela and Nelspruit were formed, because it was the railway line between the old Pretoria and Joburg on the one side and Delagoa Bay or Maputo on the other side. So Mbombela is the Maputo corridor, the city that is the major link between those two areas, and also known as the gateway to the Kruger National Park. Now, the campus which we're going to go and see now, the old Nelspruit Technical College, when the merger happened in 2002-2003, it was the only college which was actually in good condition. All the other colleges were in terrible condition. And that's the straight legacy of the difference between technical education for the white working class, on which a lot of money was spent, and then a technical education for black people, on which very little money was spent, and concerted efforts were made to keep it as low as possible. Now, this campus, basically, it started off really doing business studies. It does business management and it does HR management. And what happened was, it was only when it introduced engineering that it really started to grow. It now does electrical infrastructure there. It also does finance, economics, and accounting. And it also does office administration. And it's a big campus. You can see that. It's got around about 1,500 students. And this was the site that formed the main campus, with Barberton being historically the one satellite campus, and the place we're going to now, Kanayamazane, the other satellite campus. Now I want you to take a look at how far Kanayamazane is from Nelspruit, because what happened was, this was the area where black people were forced to locate to if they wanted to work in Nelspruit. So it was a labor reserve set up 30 kilometers away from Nelspruit. And then it was also zoned as a part of the old and short-lived Kangwane homeland, which never really happened. Now, this campus is an engineering campus. It's got around about 900 students in it, and the main course it does is engineering and related design. And that really helps you in the design and construction of buildings, if you want to get involved in that. If you want to understand how engineering systems as a whole work. If you want to understand the manufacturing of tools and machines and engines, and do a little bit of the design work as well. So it's really a catch-all engineering program. So now let's pull out of Kanyamazane. You've got Mbombela, the old Nelspruit with the Crocodile River on your left. And what you can see stretching out in front of you is the old homeland set up with Kangwane in front of you, and the attempt to push all of our black people into these areas. Now, that kind of apartheid effort is obviously going to produce massive amounts of resistance, and the campus we're going to now has a proud history of struggle. So it had students from the old Solomon Mahlangu Freedom College, which was the school for exiles set up in Tanzania. And the NGO that ran it was called the Foundation for Education with Production. And really what you're talking about there is you're talking about a black consciousness, self-sufficiency idea started up by someone like Nyerere in Tanzania, with a strong emphasis on communal agricultural production. Very different, by the way, to that other great African independence leader, Nkrumah from Ghana, who emphasized a far more industrial development route. So this Mtimba campus has now become the primary agricultural campus. And you can see the vegetable gardens and the small plots of crop growing areas. It's also got a poultry farming zone, evidently, which I've heard is doing quite well, although that was a couple of years ago. So now let's pull out of the Mtimba campus and let's go to the Mapulaneng campus. And I want to do a wide angle shift around here, because this whole area that we're moving towards, this Bushbuck Ridge Bachlabela area, has been the subject of much controversy over whether it should belong in Mpumalanga, which is in front of you, or Limpopo, which is behind you. And the people over here felt quite strongly that they wanted to be nearest to a capital, and the old Nelspruit is far closer, than Phalaborwa. So there's been lots of struggle in this area, and this particular campus used to be a part of the Mopani Southeast TVET College, and it's now shifted across to ehlanzeni. Now, this campus does civil engineering. You can do electrical infrastructure. You can do engineering and related design. You can do hospitality. You can do management. There's all sorts of NATED courses you can do as well. The human resources management. You can be a management assistant. You can do business management. You can do marketing management. You can do public management. And you can do educare. I'm not sure what that big empty lot is at the back end of the Mapulaneng campus. Desperately hoping that it's actually got something to do with new residences which are being developed, or some kind of investment in this college. I do know that a lot of the students have to stay in the local area where they use their NSFAS funding for rent, and that when the NSFAS funds get paid late, the students end up being kicked out of their private residences and they'll end up having to stay in the local library or the local police station, which is not in any way ideal situation. So we've lifted out of the Mapulaneng campus. You can see Mpumalanga stretching out on your left and Limpopo stretching out on your right, with that road very clearly demarcating the two provinces. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fly over the northern Drakensberg, the Blyde River Canyon, on our way to Mashishing or Lydenburg, depending on whether you are conservative Afrikaner or anyone else in this country. Now this is an extraordinarily beautiful part of South Africa with spectacular viewpoints stretching all the way through to Maputo, the old Delagoa Bay. Now this area has got amazing evidence of long periods of human settlement, all the way from Homo habilis, who was like around 1.86 million years ago, to extensive Stone Age settlements and Iron Age settlements, of which there's strong evidence in this Lydenburg area, or Mashishing, which actually means long green grass. It's a beautiful word. Now, the reason why this campus actually started was because of agreement between the Glencore smelting works over here and the Department of Public Works. So I'm just going to pull back so we can actually see the smelting works over there. And what happened was they basically agreed to set up a situation where they would convert old buildings into a TVET campus, and then they would use all the factories and the technical expertise that they have to ensure that proper work integrated learning and practical training happens. So very exciting development which happened, and I think it's at this area over here where the old buildings were, which have now been converted. And in this campus you can do boiler making, you can do electrical engineering, you can do fitting, and it's a very exciting initiative for me to hear that you have those kinds of intersections of private companies combined with public works, combined with the TVET college, setting up a useful and worthwhile campus. So now let's do a radical pull-out so we can get a sense of where the TVET colleges are located, this time from the northern side looking kind of south. So we're going to pull out near the Limpopo River, and from that zone you can see Phalaborwa over there with its massive mines. You can see the old Delagoa Bay or Maputo, and let's go across from that side, and we're going to go to the intersection of the Crocodile and the Komati rivers near Komati Port. We're flying over that agricultural area right into the Mlumati TVET campus, and it's located right between Swaziland on the one side, Mozambique on the other side, and then in Mpumalanga. Now there's a lot of investment that's gone into this campus. You can see it's looking really good. They've got new residences, they've got a new kitchen, and they really offer all sorts of engineering programs and business studies programs over here. So let's do a final pull out to get a sight of all 8 campuses, and we're going to pull out over Swaziland, Eswatini. Those are sugar plantations, mainly owned by the king, by the way. We're pulling out over the Lebombo Mountains, over the route which I imagine our Bantu ancestors walking all the way through down to KwaZulu-Natal. and the Eastern Cape. And what you can see is you can see the campuses caught on that northern Drakensberg line. You can see the Barberton campus with those mountains at a different angle, the Makonjwa Mountains, with the oldest evidence of what it was like to be on this planet 3.5 billion years ago, containing campuses which have the old white technicons of Nelspruit, combining with the radical Matimba College with its focus on education with production, combined with the Mapulaneng campus with its struggle between Limpopo and Mpumalanga, combined with the Lydenburg or Mashishing campus with its excellent cooperation between Glencore's Lydenburg smelter on the one side and the Department of Public Works and the Department of Higher Education getting together to get a campus going over there. And then you've also got the Kanyamazane campus caught in that old homeland system. And what do we have now? We have ehlanzeni, a college that is attempting to take us forward in the new South Africa.